Tonight we are on lecture number 3. So let's keep going. Today we're going to talk about characteristics of life and homeostasis and control pathways. All right, so homeostasis. This is one of the most important concepts for this course. You're going to keep coming back to this because this is so important in your body being able to self-regulate and adapt to different conditions and basically keep you alive when chaos breaks out. Okay, so the word homeostasis, it means maintenance of a stable internal environment. Homeo in Greek for similar means the same or similar. Stasis is Greek for standing still. So trying to stay the same, standing still, to keep things level in equilibrium in homeostasis. So internal conditions are kept at a set point, a very narrow range. So that would be the normal range that you want to keep them in. That's your set point. It's important to remember that your body is always in a dynamic equilibrium. It's not like fixed or constant. It's always moving in that normal set point range. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, that's okay. But when it goes too far off of the normal set point, that's when we get problems. Failure to maintain homeostasis causes disease, and that's pathology. So we're going to show 3 examples on how this works. In your blood, you have blood pH, the acidity or the basicness of your blood. So the range, which is very small, tight range, is 7.35 to 7.45. If your blood pH gets out of this range, you have disease, pathology. So pH that's too low is acidosis. pH that's too high is alkalosis. Okay? And your body will do things to change the pH when it's too low to make it increase, and change the pH when it's too high to make it decrease. The next one is internal body temperature. Our bodies are meant to stay between 97 and 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very stable. If it goes out of that range by too far, and it's too low, the body temperature is too low, that's hypothermia. If it goes too high, that's hyperthermia. Okay, this is different than having a fever, by the way. A fever would be 99, 100, 101, 102. Hyperthermia is like 105, 107. It's way out of range. Okay, so when that happens, you get disease, you get pathology, you can die. Next one is blood glucose. Blood glucose, its normal range is 70 milligrams per deciliter to 90 milligrams per deciliter. And this is post-fasting, means that you have stopped eating for a while, and then they drew the blood, and that's what it was. So it's going to shift back and forth in this range. If it goes too far below 70, you get hypoglycemia. If it goes too far above 90, you get hyperglycemia. These are symptoms of diabetes. If you can't stay in that normal range, the pathology is diabetes. All right, so the feedback loops. Homeostasis is controlled through feedback loops. And what that means is there's a change to the environment. That's where we're starting. That causes a response. Okay, that's the feedback, which alters the internal temperature. Oops. Let's go back. That alters the internal temperature, which brings us back over here to a change in an environment because we altered the internal temperature. Once we get back over here, it circles around again. Okay, so it's a loop that is a change to an internal environment, you get a response, it changes the environment. So it just kind of keeps going around in a circle. So negative feedback loops moves in the opposite direction to the original stimulus. And positive feedback loops moves in the same direction as the original stimulus. So let's look at these images to kind of explain that a little bit better. So negative feedback moves system towards the set point and maintains homeostasis. So in this diagram right here, this vertical line in the middle, that is our set point. So that's like the thermostat. We want to keep the temperature right here. Well, if the temperature starts going too warm, then the feedback coming back from the temperature being too warm will cause negative feedback to push that temperature back towards the set point. So that's why you see the arrow going to the right here. As it goes too hot, negative feedback goes opposite. So it brings it back to the set point. So that's what we're meaning by negative feedback loops moves in the opposite direction of the original stimulus. So if the stimulus is heating things up, the negative feedback will go back and cool things down. Opposites. This is self-regulating, and this is the more common one of the two, negative and positive feedbacks. So this lady here balancing up on a beam, you can see that if she kind of starts to wobble around, she's going to put that arm out over here. So if she starts falling this direction to the left, you usually put your arm out on this side and it balances you out. Okay. If this leg starts pointing out this way, her arms are going to go out to try to balance her out. And that's what's your body is doing opposite things to try to balance it to bring you back to the middle, the set point. One important thing is that in negative feedback, negative does not mean less. It means opposite. Okay, so if it's shifting to the right, the negative feedback will shift it back to the left. Where positive feedback moves the system with the set point. Okay, so it moves the system in the same direction from the set point. So here you can see the set point's in the middle, the stimulus is going to the right, so it's heating up. This one will keep it going that direction, so it's adding to it. That's why it's positive feedback. And this is kind of like a fire. If you get that fire burning and burning, and then it gets warmer, and then more catches on fire, it gets warmer, hotter, it'll get out of control. And sometimes positive feedbacks can get out of control because they require an off switch. This doesn't like self-regulate to where it would turn out the fire. You need a fire department to come put this out. It needs an off switch. So these are less common. And in this situation, the positive for positive feedback does not mean more. It just means in the same direction. All right, here's an example. Identify the following two feedback loops as positive or negative feedback. All right, example A. We have a lady that's pregnant over here. She's about to give birth. The baby's head down, and she starts feeling contractions. So oxytocin is a hormone that stimulates labor contractions. Okay, so when her labor contractions force the head of the baby downwards, that results in pressure on the cervix. Pressure on the cervix is a signal to the pituitary gland in your brain to release oxytocin. So this would be positive feedback. Okay, so you have oxytocin in your hormones, is a hormone that stimulates contractions in your belly. Once those contractions start squeezing on the the pressure in there, it starts pushing the baby down. The baby's head pushes on the cervix. That pressure on the cervix is going to signal the pituitary gland. Okay, so we've got electrical signs going from the cervix all the way to the brain, and that's going to tell the brain and the pituitary gland to release more oxytocin. So this kind of keeps it going. It's positive. It's all going the same direction. B, we have this guy over here that's sweating because he's out in the sun. When body temperature rises, the skin will produce sweat. The evaporation of sweat will cool the body. Okay? If the body temperature falls or decreases, the body will begin to shiver. The action of shivering generates heat to warm the body. Okay, so here we've got the body temperature rises, you get sweat, the sweat cools the body. Body temperature falls, you start to shiver and shake, it generates warmth. So this one, it's doing the opposite. So that's how come it's negative, bringing you back to the set point. So if you get too hot, it gets that thing going to the right. The sweat evaporating will cool you down and bring it back to the left. So that's negative. All right. So recall that negative feedback loops return the body to a set point, opposite the direction of the stimulus. Okay, so the nervous system and the endocrine system control many feedback loops. So, the three components to a negative feedback loop. This is how it's happening. First, we have a receptor. The receptor measures the stimulus or whatever's changing. The receptor measures it and figures out, oh, there's something wrong. Okay? That sends a signal to the control center, which is usually the nervous and the endocrine system. So the control center or the integration center, you can call it either one, that processes the information sent from the receptor, and that signals a response. Okay, that signal from the control center sends that signal to the effector, and that is what carries out the action to restore the set point. Okay, so once again, the receptor measures the stimulus, whatever the change is. Then the control center receives that information, processes the information, signals a response. Then, from that information coming to the effector carries out the action to restore the set point. So that's more detail than the previous model. So here we have an example. We have this guy, his parathyroid here and thyroid, and it's pointing down to his bone, which is the clavicle over here. Okay, so here's the parathyroid glands stating something to the clavicle. All right, so let's go through this. The parathyroid glands detect low blood calcium. So anytime you have something that's detecting something or sensing something, that's the receptor. Okay, so the parathyroid senses that the blood doesn't have enough calcium. It sends a signal. The parathyroid gland integrates or, processes that information that we have low blood calcium, and that signals and releases parathyroid hormone. So in this situation, the parathyroid gland is both the receptor and the control center. Okay. Once it releases parathyroid hormone, that sends a signal to the bone. The bone tissue is stimulated by parathyroid hormone to increase blood calcium. So that's the effector. Okay, so the receptor sends a signal to the control center. The control center sends a signal to the effector. And then it increases the blood calcium and fixes the situation, brings it back to norm. All right, another example. Identify the components of the negative feedback loop. All right, you stand up quickly, causing your blood pressure to fall, and you feel lightheaded. Your pulse begins to increase, raising your blood pressure, and after a moment, you feel fine. So we're going to use this diagram. First, identify the stimulus and the response, then label the receptor, control center, and effector in this feedback loop. All right, so the stimulus. The stimulus is always going to be what goes out of range. So in this situation, the blood pressure falls because you stood up quick. So the blood pressure falls. Okay. The response is the blood pressure rises. So this is the stimulus. It's going to cause a response. Let's see how that happens. So the medulla, that's in your brain, processes that we have low blood pressure signal. That sends a message to the heart. Okay, so that's the control center part. Here, after standing up quickly, the baroreceptors, which receptors measure something, above the heart measure a drop in blood pressure. So those are the receptors. And then the heart rate increases to increase blood pressure. That's the effector. So the effector is what pushes it back to get it going in the right direction. All right, so let's look at it with this over here. So first we have the medulla, realizes there's low blood pressure. That sends a signal to the heart, right down here. Okay. Then the baroreceptors in the heart measure a drop in the blood pressure. That's the receptor. It makes it pump faster, get a higher heart rate, increases the blood pressure. And it goes around and around. All right. Temperature. Thermoregulation follows a negative feedback mechanism. So here we have the guy that's outside sweating his brains out, and here the girl that's freezing. So the receptors, temperature sensitive cells in the hypothalamus. So when you get too hot or too cold, your hypothalamus senses that, and it can send off signals. That sends signals to the control center, which is also in the hypothalamus. That will send responses and signals to the effectors to start having stuff happen to get it back to normal. So sweat glands on the skin respond when the body's too hot. Skeletal muscles respond by shivering when the body's too cold. Smooth muscles control blood flow when it's hot or cold. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So this diagram is going to explain how that all happens. So we're going to start with too cold. When you're too cold, you start to shiver. That causes muscle contractions, which increase your temperature. Okay, so here we have the midline, the set point. When you get too cold, we're going towards the left here with this arrow. That sends a signal to the receptor. The thermoreceptors in the brain figure that out, that it's too cold. That sends a signal to the hypothalamus. It processes that information. That sends a signal to the effector, which causes your skeletal muscles to start shivering. And your smooth muscles, that will cause your blood vessels to get smaller. Okay, Once they get smaller, you have less blood at the skin and more blood into the inner body core. That will increase the temperature. So the vasoconstriction and the skeletal muscles causing shivering, those together will increase the temperature, which pushes this back to the set point. Okay. Other situation, when you're too hot, you're sweating. So when that sweat, you've got water all over the outside of your body, it starts to evaporate. Okay, that will cool your temperature. Blood flow to the skin increases, which also decreases or cools your temperature. All right, so how this one works is your body's getting too hot, so the arrow is going to the right. Oh, we gotta go down here. Going to the right, you get the receptor, and that is your thermoreceptors in your brain. It senses that you're too hot. That sends a signal to the control center, the hypothalamus in your brain. That processes the information that you're too hot. That sends a signal to the effector, which are your sweat glands and your smooth muscle. The sweat glands will start making sweat. The sweat will start evaporating, cool you down. The smooth muscle, the blood flow to the skin increases. That happens because the blood vessels dilate or get bigger. And then when there's more blood at the surface, whereas at your skin, that blood gets cooled because it's on the surface by evaporative cooling, by the sweat, and that helps the temperature go down. Okay, another example of that. So as you can see, the set point is like in the middle here. If it goes too hot, negative feedback pushes it that way. If it gets too cold, negative feedback goes that way. So that's where we're talking about it's the opposite. All right, let's switch to positive feedback loops. So positive feedback loops move the body in the same direction of the stimulus. Okay, where negative is opposite direction, positive is the same direction. So just think positive, you're getting more, and that's the same direction. So positive feedback loops are less common, and there's two main examples that we're going to talk about today. So in birthing, the mom having the baby. When the mom is in labor, the baby's head pushes against the cervix. Okay, that is the light switch. It's turning that process on. That gets us into the cycle. So the baby's head pushes the cervix, turns the system on. Down here, pressure on the cervix causes the hypothalamus to release oxytocin, which is that hormone. It's a chemical signal that causes the contractions to increase and in the uterus, increasing the pressure on the cervix even more. Over here, we get it again. The cervix gets more pressure, release more oxytocin. Come over here, more contractions of the uterus, increasing the pressure more on the cervix. We keep just getting more and more contractions, more pressure on the cervix over and over and over again. And eventually, that pressure on the cervix is enough to open the birth canal and push the baby out. Okay? Once the baby is pushed out of the birth canal, that's the signal to turn the light switch off. Okay, so you get in, it turns it on, you keep going around, it forces more. Once the baby comes out, it switches it off. So that's the positive feedback. The other example we have here is blood, specifically blood clotting. When a blood vessel breaks, you get into this cycle. Once it breaks, it flips the switch on. Now you're in the cycle. Platelets in your blood adhere to the wound site. Okay. This releases signaling chemicals which cause that area to attract more platelets to the wound. Okay. It goes around again. It causes more platelets to get next to that cut or the wound. More and more. Pretty soon you got like a lot of platelets clotting that's trying to seal up that wound. And once that hits its point where the wound is closed and you stop bleeding, this is how it comes out here. So once you get enough platelets and clotting, it'll stop bleeding. Once the bleeding stops, it shuts off and you don't make any more platelets there. Okay, but that's where we're talking about positive feedback, where it just keeps adding to it, adding to it, adding to it until it gets to the purpose. Same thing here. We're adding more contractions, more oxytocin, more pressure on the cervix until the baby comes out, and then it switches it off. So same direction. All right, we're almost done. Example, hemophilias and thrombophilias are both classes of dangerous blood clotting disorders. If blood does not clot properly, it's referred to as hemophilia. If blood clots too easily, it's referred to as thrombophilia. So we previously compared positive feedback mechanisms to a fire. Explain how thrombophilia and hemophilia relate to the analogy of positive feedback as a fire. Okay, so we know this is a blazing wildfire, getting hotter, 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 more burning, more burning. Okay, so this is wood that it's not catching. It looks like it's been put out a little bit. It's kind of smoking. It's never starting. Okay, so in this situation, hemophilias, which not clotting, this one can't get started. Okay, so if we can't get the starting of the fire, we can't get it to burn, we can't get it to create heat, this is going to be our example of hemophilias. They never start. They can't get going. Okay, here we have that raging, burning fire. This would be more like thrombophilias, where it clots too easy, too many clots. You can end up having a heart attack or stroke, and it just keeps going until you have a major heart attack. Okay, so thrombophilias is very dangerous. It's clotting too easy, too many clots, uncontrolled. This is what happens a lot of times when they mix up the blood when they're doing a blood transfusion and you get the wrong kind of blood. You get way too much clotting and it can actually cause death. So that's why when you get blood or someone's going to give you blood at the hospital, they not only have one person check it, they have two people come check your blood, the donor blood, they sign off on it, and then they get someone else to come and do it again. Just trying to make sure that there's no mistakes, because just that little mistake can cause big problems. Okay. All right, and that's it. See you next time.